Welcome to the party, pal. On this week's video, we are kicking off action timelines with the Die Hard series down here at Nakatomi Plaza. That's right. Come out to the coast, we'll get together, try and figure out the timeline of a bunch of movies that is a series of scripts of other films that were shoehorned into a specific series to try and fit together.
So we first met John McClane in 1988 in the original Die Hard. Watching it today isn't the same because you had to understand that we were in a time of massive muscle-head, macho action stars like Arnold and Stallone, and here comes this little action film starring a guy most known for romantic comedies. We meet John, his wife Holly, Jerky Ellis, and we also learn that John has 2 kids and that his marriage is in trouble. It's Christmas Eve and we go to Nakatomi Plaza, which is taken over by terrorists who take everyone hostage. We then meet villain Hans Gruber, played by the late, great Alan Rickman, who tells us that Mr. Nakatomi was born in 1937. If we assume that we're in present-day 88, that makes him 51, which looks about right, so let's roll with that for now. Turns out that Hans and crew aren't terrorists, but just thieves, and John manages to stay loose and kills this guy, whose license expires in 1990, so we're set a few years before that, so 88 still looks good. Pretty soon, a local cop gets involved, and oh my god, look at those gas prices. He gets a catchphrase.
Yippee Kay Yay, motherfucker.
Eventually he wins the day, killing this guy. The building blows up. Argyle gets this guy. John kills Huey Lewis, and Hans falls to his doom like all 80s villains. John and Holly are reunited, but this guy's not dead yet. Oh, yeah, now he is. Holly wraps it up by punching a man with no dick, and we're out. Real quick to settle an apparent dispute, Die Hard is not, I repeat, not a Christmas movie. Yes, it's set at Christmas, but it has no bearing on the storyline. Take out the fact that it's Christmas and it's still a functioning movie, which negates it being a Christmas movie and makes it simply a movie set at Christmas. John comes back 2 years later in 1990's Die Hard 2, otherwise known as Die Harder. It starts off with this car, whose license plate expires in 1990, although it's Christmas again, so the year's over. So it looks like we might be in 89 here, since the policeman doesn't mention expired plates for why they're towing the car. Although Holly tells John that it's the 90s, so the jury's still out, I guess. Anyway, John and Holly are back together, and things go awry right away with action at the airport, where John is waiting for Holly's plane to land. He kills a guy, and this facts of his dossier shows that he was killed in a helicopter crash in 88, which Alan says was 2 years ago, so we're definitely in 1990 here. Things get intense.
How could the same shit happen to the same guy twice?
Well, at least they were self-aware about it.
This one is about as violent as any one of my horror timelines, with some pretty over-the-top kills. Holly takes out Dick again, and we get a reminder that John doesn't like to fly, before tossing one bad guy into a plane engine, and then using his catchphrase,
Yippee Kay Yay, motherfucker.
Which was changed to this for the TV version.
Yippee Kay Yay, Mr. Falcon.
and blows up all the bad guys in one fell swoop. Holly's plane lands safely, and they're reunited. 3 years later, in 1995, it's time to die hard with a vengeance, which finally takes us to New York City and kicks off with a bang. And the madman is making John play Deadly Simon Says, and he's a mess. He's a New York cop again and is separated from Holly and suspended, but he gets teamed up with Sam Jackson, so that's a plus. While racing around the city, they end up in a subway with a poster for the '94 Goodwill Games, so we have a likely date, and it's revealed that Simon is the brother of Hans Gruber, which is where the whole vengeance things come from. But it turns out that Simon and Hans share the same playbook, and the terrorist act as a distraction for a heist. John figures it out, and a series of chases involves a random music cue of Singing in the Rain, and ends up with a face-off on a ship, and John mentions he and Holly split up a year ago, and Simon gets away. John tracks him down, and Sam Jackson is allowed to come with him for some reason, and Simon gets blown up while John says his catchphrase.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother...
There's no Christmas and no Al in this one, though, although it does still feel like a Die Hard movie. McClane didn't resurface for 12 years until 2007's Live Free or Die Hard, which was also known as Die Hard 4.0, which had that title and had Justin Long in it. So yeah, great start. John shows up with no hair, and little Lucy McClane shows back up, all grown up. John has to protect a young hacker who is being targeted, and we find out that it's the 4th of July, and super hackers bring down the U.S. communications and stock market, and John is just kind of pulled into the FBI operation in Washington, D.C., which I suppose happens plenty of times. The villain pulls up this file, which tells us a lot. John became a cop in 77, and they list the Nakatomi Tower incident as taking place in 87, although that slightly contradicts him saying that he'd been a cop for 11 years in the first movie, but since it says he graduated in June and that movie happened in December, it's possible he was just rounding up to sound impressive. It also states the Chicago airport incident happened in 90, which we already knew, and that he received a life-saving medal in 94, which we can probably assume to be the events of the third movie, and confirms that date also. We can also see his birthday as May 23rd, 1955, and that he was divorced from Holly in 97, so his reconciliation efforts at the ending of the third movie weren't successful, and that John's due to retire in January of 08. The villain says that he's been a police officer for 30 years, which places us in 2007, the year of release, and John is 52 years old here. Things escalate to the point of the bad guys shutting down the eastern seaboard, and we find out that not only has John conquered his fear of flying, but he's also learned to fly a helicopter. And he needs the help of Kevin Smith, of all people, because his daughter gets kidnapped. After a series of increasingly improbable events, John faces off against the villains and manages to squeeze out a catchphrase
Yippee Kay Yay,
before killing Timothy Oliphant. It wraps with everyone happy and John reconciled with his daughter, and except for the Yippee Kay Yay, there's really nothing in this film that feels like a Die Hard movie. John has made the full transition from extremely capable Everman to unstoppable superhero. He came back 6 years later with 2013's A Good Day to Die Hard.
Who the hell comes up with these titles?
We kick off with John looking at a file, and the date on the top reads September 21st, 2012, so it looks like we have a date pretty early, and it turns out that the file is on John's son Jack, who is in prison in Russia. The file also shows Jack's birthday as September 15th, 1984, so he would have been 3 years old in the first film, and 28 here. After extensive property damage, it's revealed that Jack is a spy, and John and him bond by killing people together and going to Cheryl Noble, and in a big final fight he manages to let out a half-hearted catchphrase.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
But at least they let him say the whole thing, because, this one was not rated PG-13. John and Jack kill all the bad guys and miraculously survive and reconcile because the Die Hard movies teach us that all family issues can be resolved by life-threatening circumstances. Lucy does reappear in the film, although her scenes are absent from the extended version I pulled the footage from.
So there you have it, 5 movies that were never meant to fit together, that actually fit together pretty well, I guess. Continuity-wise, they at least make sense. But all said and done, the first 3 movies, you can't argue the first 3 movies are amazing action films and fantastic movies in their own right. After that, not so much. But that's it for this week's video. Hope you enjoyed Action Timelines. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know other action series that you'd like to see, and just other movies in general. Gonna be taking a little bit of time off for the holidays, I guess. So probably see you after the first of the year. In the meantime, please contribute to my Patreon page. Link is down below here. These people to my side here, I don't know if it's left or right, they also contribute, so thank you to all of those people. Thank you for being part of it and helping me out here. And in the meantime, I'll see you in a couple of weeks for another great video. Thanks, guys.